All right. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. I appreciate the time, and I'm here to talk to you about how to deliver end-to-end hyper automation solutions using Salesforce and MuleSoft. So just to introduce myself, who am I? I'm Joey Chan. I'm a Salesforce MVP and a MuleSoft ambassador. Some fun fact here: there's currently three in the world that holds both titles. I'm also a proud husband and father to 6-year-old and 2-year-old girls. I'm the founder and technical architect at Cloud Jedi Solutions. We're privileged to be number one rated on the App Exchange for a while now. I'm also 30 times Salesforce and MuleSoft certified architect. And then I'm also a well architected ambassador. For those who are going to Dreamforce this year, I'll actually be speaking in the well architected session. So I'm also one of the organizers for both Philippines Dreamin' and Southeast Asia Dreamin'. So they're basically Salesforce conferences. So what's the agenda for today? So I'll be talking about the Trailblazer community in the Philippines, understanding what is actually hyper automation, why you should care, and how is Salesforce and MuleSoft working together in order to achieve this, and how you can actually learn more. All right. With that, so we have the Trailblazer community in the Philippines. So we've been there for several years now, and currently we have around 870 members across the Philippines, composed of mostly Salesforce admins, developers, and consultants. If you were to look at the Philippines, they're mostly outsourcing destination, similar to India. So there's quite a lot of people that are servicing other countries. So a lot of these are um, in a way development work, whether it's managing support. And then just to give an idea, this is actually a quick picture of what we had in terms of the Philippines Dreamin'. So for those that are planning to visit, so we're actually planning something within the next several months. So keep an update on that. So you can follow me on LinkedIn later if you want to learn more about this event that we're planning. So we'll keep you updated on this one. And then for those that want to learn more about the Trailblazer community, so there's actually a calendar that you can use. Many people aren't really aware of this, but if you want to learn more about the different events happening around the world, so there's actually this specific site. I can send over the link to this. So basically, this is actually a calendar of all of the Salesforce related events happening around the world. So meaning you could filter it depending on what you want. So whether it's virtual or in-person meetings. So in this case, for example, if I'm just simply looking at virtual events that I want to join, what I usually do is I look at my calendar. If I see any blank spaces here, I would then also check this specific list. Hey, is there something interesting that I could learn from happening around the world that's virtual that I can join? Or if you're actually visiting a new country, might as well see if there's something that you can join in person, right? Quick tip here, make sure you change your time zone to mine. That way the time here would show up in your local time zone, and then you can then just join in. And take note, this same thing is also available for the MuleSoft community meetups. All right, going back. So first is, what is hyperautomation? So many of you are already familiar with the word automation, right? But what does hyperautomation mean? So it's basically the concept of using uh, a business-driven approach, meaning it's actually the business that's driving this, and then identifying as many business processes and IT processes as possible. This is coined by Gartner. They're actually one companies that Salesforce references a lot. So why does Salesforce reference Gartner a lot? Basically, it's what many of the CIOs and other IT professionals actually refer to in terms of understanding what software to use in their system. So in a way, they're guiding companies in terms of how they implement their IT solutions. So it's actually the orchestrated use of all of these different things. At least for our purposes for today, we'll be talking about specific topics like event-driven architecture, software architecture, RPA. low code and no code solutions. So this actually a combination of all of each one of these items. So machine learning, BPM, iPaaS, all of the other package software, and how meant to work together in order to build a complete solution. So first off, why should you even care about this, right? A big part of it, especially in larger organization, is they really want to improve productivity, right? So you probably heard of the saying, people want to get more out of things, right? So doing more with less. A big part of it is being able to deliver a lot of business value faster. How can you actually help the business um, do a lot more productivity? And a big part of it is for each one of you, many of you are either Salesforce, MuleSoft, or Tableau professionals, and even Slack. A big part of it is understanding what are the available solutions in the market, and at the same time that would help you also in terms of career, right? Being able to use this and understanding when to use it, when to not to use it would be helpful in our careers. All right, so usually we start with Salesforce, right, at the core of many businesses. So whenever you need to create automation within Salesforce, it's actually no longer workflow rules, it's no longer process builder. Now it's actually Salesforce Flows. So what is Salesforce Flows? It's basically a no-code solution in terms of creating automations within the Salesforce platform. So if you think about it, if you need to create wizard-based screens, Salesforce Flows called screen flows is something that you could use in order to create those wizard steps. So let's say if you need to go for, let's say, application form and there's multiple steps. First page would be basic information like first name, last name, address, and then next page would be understanding, okay, document. So you could create a process using Salesforce Flows. But what if you actually need to create integrations with outside systems? So one of the ways you could actually leverage later on, it's actually the MuleSoft package, is there's a product called MuleSoft Composer. For the Salesforce side of things, some people call it Flow Composer, sorry, Flow integrations. So it's actually integration tool that you can use that's drag and drop. If you already know Salesforce Flows, it's basically a similar concept. You basically just select a trigger, you tell it what you want it to do, and then it will then create the automations. It currently has 29 standards connectors, and it allows you to be able to create custom integrations with other systems, even if it's not part of the first 29 standard connectors. And this is something that many people can actually use. There's actually no coding experience required for this. If you understand processes and if you can follow steps in terms of understanding when there's a trigger, what do you want to happen in terms of action, you could actually use MuleSoft Composer. So this is really geared for non-technical people. And then what if there's actually no API or we're dealing with a legacy system? A big part that we can use is actually MuleSoft RPA. So RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation. So in a way, think about it as a user interface-based automation. So if we need, for example, to gather data from images, from PDFs, it also allows you to interact with desktop applications, emails, and spreadsheets. Think of it as like a person doing several tasks. So imagine a simple process of logging into an application. So first is you have to look for the username and then find the next text box to it, right? And then fill in the details, look at the password, and then find the next text box to it, and then fill in the password, and then hit enter. That same process is something that you can then use. One important thing here is that this is really meant for systems that doesn't have an API. So there are still a number of legacy systems out there, even though it's already 2023. So this is something that companies can really use to leverage that. And then what if I still can't do it with the previous tools, right? So there's also this option of using the MuleSoft Anypoint platform. based on the stats, seems like many of you are also from the MuleSoft community. So this is something not new to you, right? So it's really meant for complex integration needs. So MuleSoft Composer is actually something that you can use for basic integrations. But if you need something complex, whenever you're dealing with multiple different systems, or if you have requirements wherein you need a certain speed, certain data requirements wherein you're loading large sets of data, MuleSoft Endpoint Platform is actually what you should be looking at. And then now we have this package called MuleSoft Automation. So a big part of it is actually a combination of a MuleSoft Composer, MuleSoft RPA, and the Endpoint Platform. So whenever you need to integrate with business systems like NetSuite, integration with Jira, say Salesforce to Salesforce connection. Let's say you have multiple orgs, you want to transfer data to in between orgs for a small set of data, you could use Composer. And then RPA, if you're dealing with documents, images, legacy applications, something that both of these tools are also no code, but Anypoint Platform is a low code solution, but it's also geared towards more for MuleSoft developers and MuleSoft architects. So it's a lot more complex, but it's so much more powerful. And then a big part of it is actually understanding how these are actually meant to work together. So normally, whenever you're dealing with basic connectors, so let's say if you're dealing with email like Gmail, Salesforce, we have Slack, we have Workday. We've actually also used this with Twilio. If you need to, let's say, call or text someone, you can actually use MuleSoft Composer to send those messages. It's something that you could do in less than an hour. And a big part of it is how you can leverage MuleSoft Composer. And let's say, for example, RPA Manager. So let's say you have a process in RPA that goes to a legacy system, a web-based system that doesn't have an API. You want it to log in, get some data, and then put the data back into something that nobody needs to go through daily. So it's something that RPA manager can do. In a way, that specific process, logging in, getting the data from a specific web page, and then turning that into something readable is something that can be turned into an API that can be leveraged in both MuleSoft Composer and within the Anypoint platform. In a way, that turns that specific process into an API that can be called throughout these different systems. And something interesting about this is we now actually have a capability called invocable flows. So meaning you can actually now process MuleSoft Composer flows within Salesforce flows. So in a way, we have this diagram that shows how each of the processes within the MuleSoft automation suite can then also work with the Salesforce Flow Builder in order to actually achieve end-to-end automation. So meaning you have different processes happening either within Salesforce, outside Salesforce. So if it's happening within Salesforce, you could use the Salesforce flows, right? But you could also then trigger another process that would either call the MuleSoft Composer or the RPA manager through this, and then also possibly interact with other complex third-party system using the endpoint platform. And then now the question is, how can you learn more about this, right? So this is simply a really high overview of some of the capabilities since we only have so much time here. So what I would recommend, if depending on the company, I've actually gone through this specific course myself, and this is actually going through a lot of different capabilities in terms of the Salesforce flows, uh, orchestrator, the RPA, the MuleSoft Composer. So it's actually something end to end that you can leverage, and they also actually give you a Salesforce org, a Composer, and an RPA instance to actually play with. So for those that have the benefit of having their company sponsor this specific instructor-led course, this is highly recommended. And then there's also the capability of actually going through self-paced. So there's actually a hyper automation certification trail mix. For those that doesn't know, there's actually a certification for hyper automation. So this is something that you can use in terms of learning more about the capabilities. So that's where you learn in terms of how they actually interact with each other and what you could use for different scenarios. And then another thing that you could use is actually join these specific community. So this, we have one for MuleSoft Composer and another one for RPA. Big part of it is take note, many of the product managers are actually there. So if you have a question, something related to the product, it's highly likely that someone will actually be able to answer it. If not, you could tag some of the group leaders. They'll know actually who to help to be able to solve your solutions with regards to these products. All right. With that, do you have any questions?
Great. Thanks for that, Joey. That was a really comprehensive explanation and how they all fit together. There were a couple of questions that came up in the chat. Sagnik asked, does Composer apps have cloud deployment options for easy availability for external users?
All right. Here's something unique about Composer. So think about Composer as one Cloud Hub instance that's separate. And whenever a company subscribes to it, you only get one. There's no concept of test environment or a sandbox for it. There's actually a good reason for it. It's really meant for those people that aren't technical. So they're really trying to make it as simple as possible with regards to that. So not really.
Great. And Manik has chimed in there with a great explanation. So thank you. Any other, we've just got a couple of minutes left. Any other questions you'd like to ask Joey before we wrap up?
Yeah, if there's something else, feel free to connect with me. So we have these two QR codes. So feel free to send a message or to say hi if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. So that's the best place to follow me. And then if anybody would be interested in Philippine streaming, so we're planning that. So keep in touch. So I'll be posting more about that soon.
All right, awesome. Thanks once again, Joey. That was really great. Bye, everyone. Thank you for attending.
Kumusta? Mukhang hindi sanay. Pansin mo ba kung kung nag-i-stutter or
yun yung observation ko. Medyo pag napapabilis ka ng salita, yan. I think kung medyo slow down mo na konti, maganda siguro magkakaroon ng stutter sa mga
Tinignan ko kasi sa time eh. Tsaka madalas pa yung
hindi naman. I think nabawasan yung bawas na yung mga